All right, so today I wanted to talk about John Boorman's uh, Arthurian film Excalibur from 1981 and kind of just delve into it a little bit because this movie's kind of a mess. I have a fascination with this film, and I don't know, maybe it borders on obsession. Of course, I'm really into the Arthurian literature. I mean, I'm like, I love this stuff. I really do. But this movie, it's a oddball of a film. It's kind of strange. So John Boorman, he filmed this in Ireland. It has like a German soundtrack because it's got music from like Richard Wagner, and then it's got like O Fortuna from uh, Carmina Burana. So it's kind of a weird mishmash of stuff. Now it says that it's based off of Sir Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur, right? This 15th century text. And it is kind of, but not really. I mean, this movie really is kind of like John Boorman's own thing. So if you have no familiarity with Le Morte d'Arthur, then I don't know what you'll get out of this, because the movie's it like jumps, it time skips. Scenes kind of just jump from scene to scene to scene, and you'll have like these massive time skips, and the movie doesn't tell you that it's skipping time. It doesn't really hold your hand and tell you what's going on. You just kind of like have to strap in and figure out, go for the ride with this film. But I think that this film, as much as it owes to Thomas Malory, I think it owes a lot to Alfred Lord Tennyson's Idylls of the King, this Victorian poetry. And we'll get into that, because I just want to talk about like what a strange eclectic mix of all of the totality of Arthurian legend. So you've got like, it's filmed in Ireland, which kind of gives you like that strange Celtic feel to the movie, which kind of taps into the Mabinogian, and like the Welsh and Celtic literature. And then it's like the Germanic soundtrack, which kind of like takes you into things like, Wolfram von Eschenbach, like the whole Parzival mythos there with the Grail and everything. And then, you've got like kind of the French influence too, because of characters like Leon de Grance and Sir Lancelot, right? Like with the French names. So this thing is just, this movie's kind of just like a distilled essence, is what I would call it, of like all of the Arthuriana, like all this stuff. Because I mean, this covers everything. There's been other Arthurian tales put to film, like The Sword and the Stone, or the adaptation of the musical Camelot, which were both based on T.H. White's Once and Future King. But neither one of those talks about the Grail legend. And then you've got like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is like a spoof. There's been other things. There's been Clive Owen in the 2005, or was it 2004, whatever, the King Arthur movie, which really set it like in its 5th or 6th century milieu, with him being kind of like a Roman legionnaire. But John Boorman takes this material and it's really kind of anachronistic, and that the Arthurian legend is set like in the 5th or 6th century, but yet he's using like 15th or 16th century armor. And, it's talking about like knights and, I mean, the whole Arthurian thing is kind of anachronistic, really starting with like Chrétien de Troyes, when he introduces the whole concept of chivalry and puts, Sir Lancelot into the legend and whatnot. And then we get, more French development with Robert de Boron and everything. But yeah, this movie's weird. It's really weird. It's really 80s. It's let's just play some of this music. We'll talk about the music. We'll talk about this opening theme. Okay, so we'll play this. And, okay, so the opening music to the movie right here. This is actually Richard Wagner's Siegfried's Funeral March, which comes from a series of operas that Wagner did, and this was the last one. And this character Siegfried is really kind of like the destruction of the, I guess, what is it, Valhalla or whatever, the abode of the gods, and it's kind of ends with like fire and destruction and whatnot. But that's kind of like how this movie opens. It's weird. So Siegfried's Funeral March, you know, opens the film and it closes the film. And of course, this is, you know, Mallory's, it's called The Death of King Arthur. So in a way, this kind of becomes like Arthur's funeral march. And if you've watched any of that Wagner opera, the Odin character, right? Odin, he's usually accompanied by ravens in that play, and that's very much like what Merlin looks like when he emerges in this film. He's often accompanied by like two ravens. He looks like a raven. He's dressed like one. Of course, we get the opening here with all these knights in black armor fighting. You've got Gabriel Byrne. This is his film debut as Uther Pendragon, and he's asking Merlin for a sword while all this combat's going on. A sword! You promised me a sword! Yes, but to heal, not to hack. You know, that whole thing. This movie's got a lot of crazy dialogue. Talk is for lovers, Merlin! Anyways, they shout their lines. Everybody shouts all their lines. And this movie's got a lot of really clunky dialogue in it, but it's also got a lot of really beautiful visuals. The fight choreography is basically just a mess. Got people in this armor just whacking the crap out of each other. Nothing's choreographed. And it's pretty crazy. So we get this piece of music that opens and closes the film. And I'll stop that because you know, I'm trying to talk over it. But yeah, it's a bizarre film. It's a very bizarre film. It looks almost like a lot of these actors. So first time actors debut, you've got like Patrick Stewart as Leon deGrance. You've got Gabriel Byrne, which I just mentioned. You have Liam Neeson. This is his first movie. All these guys would go on to have, you know, great careers, but this was their first film. All of them, they come across, most everybody in this film comes across as if they're on a stage play, and I think that's kind of the way you have to watch it. So you have to act like you're in a theater watching a stage production, because I think, like, for instance, Patrick Stewart, he looks like he's on a stage because he's shouting all of his lines, you know. For instance, when Nigel Terry, his Arthur, draws the sword from the stone, you got Patrick Stewart and he's like yelling, he's all, I saw what I saw. He pulled the sword. If a boy has been chosen, then a boy shall be king. You know, it's like, it's just very theatrical. So, yeah, it's an interesting mess of a film. Like I said, it just jumps from scene to scene to scene. And I think that this film does some stuff where it makes composite characters. So, for instance, John Boorman, he takes like the King Arthur character and like mashes him together with the Fisher King, so that the Fisher King and King Arthur are the same. And then he does things where it feels like he takes Morgana, who's played by Helen Mirren, and mashes her together with Vivian. And I think that Alfred Lord Tennyson's Idols of the King really has a lot of influence on John Boorman, because like if you read the poem The Coming of King Arthur, which is the first, like if you've watched the sequence where Arthur is fighting Uriens, okay, this is after Arthur pulls the sword from the stone. He goes to Leon deGrante's castle, Cameliard, and he fights Uriens and Guinevere's watching. That's exactly what you see in this poem. it says, I'll just jump down. And thus the land of Cameliard was waste, thick with wet woods and many a beast therein, and none are few to scare or chase the beast. So this is, Leon de Grand, the king of Cameliard, line 1. We jump down there. And then you've got Uriens is attacking him. You've got, let's see. Urien assailed him, last of the heathen horde. So there's that line. Then you've got Arthur. But for he heard of Arthur newly crowned, though not without an uproar made by those who cried, he is not Uther's son, the king. So that's what Uriens is saying in the film, is that he doesn't believe he's Arthur's son. So this, Tennyson has a lot of influence on this film. In fact, there's a whole part in here with Merlin and Vivian. Now, there's a scene in this movie where Merlin is in the cave, the crystal cave with Morgana. And it feels almost like Merlin and Vivian, okay, like Boorman is ripping material from this. Because she's trying to get him to give her the charm. In the movie, she's trying to get him to give her the charm of making. But in this, Vivian is trying to get Merlin to give up his secrets. And you'll see a lot of parallels between this and this. So, like I said, Boorman's Excalibur is kind of a mishmash of a lot of different things. Now, the other major piece of music, now Trevor Jones did a lot of music for this movie as well. But the other major piece of music from this is, like I said, O Fortuna, which comes from Carmina Burana, which is kind of a joke now because it's been used in like burger commercials and so many other things. But it sounds like this. You'll recognize it instantly. Now this plays, the first time we hear it is when Arthur goes to Leon de Grand's castle to help him. He says, anyone that would be a knight and follow a king, follow me! And then they take off, and then this music kicks in. And this music kicks in again at the end of the film when Arthur fights his son Mordred. Okay, after the whole Grail quest, which Parzival goes off to search for the Holy Grail. He's played by Paul Jeffrey. And once he returns and gives Arthur the chalice, okay, and then Arthur has a little speech. It's pretty epic. But then Sir Kay says, knights, squires, prepare for battle. Then we see the gate come down and Arthur and his knights riding out, and this music plays again. So this movie's just kind of this eclectic, weird mishmash of different stuff. It's totally 80s. It really has the feel of like a Frank Frazetta painting or something. Movies like Conan the Barbarian came out right around the same time of this. This is 1 year after The Empire Strikes Back. And you really feel kind of like the there you go, Carmina Burana. But you really feel kind of like the influence of Star Wars on this movie as well. Like when Nicole Williamson's character Merlin, I'll stop this. I feel like I'm talking over it. But there's a scene in this movie where Arthur and Merlin are chatting with each other in a wooded area, and it very much has the feel of Luke Skywalker and Yoda on Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back. And you can kind of just like substitute the dragon whenever Merlin's talking about the dragon for the Force in Star Wars, and it's kind of, this movie's just a product of its time. It's quirky and bizarre, and I have kind of an obsession with it, but I love it. So if you've never seen it, check it out. It's really weird. And, I'll have to do a review for Tennyson's poetry, these 12 poems, because they really are quite beautiful. So I know most people probably aren't going to sit down and read La Morte d'Arthur because, it's kind of hard to get through. It's, it's just, it is. But this Victorian poetry, maybe this is more your speed. And I would say check this out because it's really quite beautiful and it's great. So I'll do a review on this, but, in case you didn't know, this is in the public domain. So you can find this as a LibriVox recording and listen to it. And the ones that I would recommend, like really listening to, would be the first poem, The Coming of Arthur. I think that Vivian and Merlin is a great poem as well. And I think the last poem in here, which is The Passing of Arthur, is quite beautiful. It may be my favorite poem in the entire work. So if you've never, read this, give it a listen. Listen to somebody read it. It's really good. All right. Thank you for watching. Check out this weird movie, Excalibur. What do you think about it? I love it. I know that it's a mess of a movie, but I love Arthurian stuff. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.